Hey you guys, welcome back to Black Tea. It's your girl Ebony. So you guys, there are two topics that I want to discuss in this video. The first topic being none other than Miss Chloe Bailey getting dragged on Instagram yet again for another cringe Instagram video. Now for those of you guys who don't know, Chloe Bailey did do a cover video for the song Lovin' You, and let's just say she added her little pizzazz, but a lot of people were not here for it.
So beautiful. And every day of my
So as you see, Chloe loves to look sensual into the camera. She loves to give a little bit of sexy, but people on Instagram feel like she's doing too much. One Instagram user saying this, LMFAO, she's so cringe AF to me. But hey, she making her monies, and for that, I gotta respect her. She be forcing it. Come on. No, just no. Please stop. Nah, baby, I love her, but she should have left Minnie alone, cause baby, ain't nobody coming like her. Why she gotta always over-sexualize everything? She can sing, but I really think she should apply for a P-Hub. That's definitely her calling. I don't like it. So as you see, people have a lot of mixed emotions. I do not think that Chloe Bailey needs to go apply for P-Hub, but what I will say is that this is who she is. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I do understand that the blogs will post this video and people have a right to comment because it's public, but I also feel like we can be really hard on Chloe Bailey, and she's already told us that this is who she is. So click off. But you guys know that's just my opinion. Now the next topic I do want to discuss is none other than Jennifer Hough's attorneys allegedly being exposed in new court documents. And to give you guys some backstory of how we got here, you guys remember that after the case was dropped by Jennifer Hough against Nicki Minaj, this is where we saw Judge Bernstein, who is Nicki's lawyer, not only petition the court for a date so that he could file his motions for sanctions, but also asked the judge to approve these dates because he could not clearly communicate with Jennifer Hough's attorneys. Now, after Judge did ask this of the court, this is where we saw Steven, who is Jennifer's lawyer, come out and accuse Judge Bernstein of not only cyber stalking his wife, but also trying to make it seem like Judge Bernstein was out here threatening him. Well, it does seem that Steven is out here telling on himself allegedly, and he just submitted an email that looks very, very sticky in the eyes of the law. Now, this is what Steven had to say, and this is Judge Bernstein's response. In my January 21st letter to you, Your Honor, I demonstrated how Onika Tanya Mirage cannot even meet the lower standard for sanctions under Rule 11. Yet, Nicki's counsel claims to be seeking a briefing schedule for sanctions under 28 U.S.C. and the court's inherent power. If Onika Tanya Mirage cannot show that any of the plaintiff's allegations were objectively unreasonable, it is axiomatic that she cannot meet the higher standard, subjective bad faith required for such sanctions. On January 20th, Onika Tanya Mirage and her lawyer learned that we are refiling against her in California. Hence, the reason that they filed a letter with the court on the same date. This request is nothing more than an attempt to delay the plaintiff's refiling against Onika Tanya Mirage. So let's stop there. So in Steven's letter, he is basically telling the judge that Nicki Minaj would not have met even the lowest standard of Rule 11 for sanctions. So that means that Nicki Minaj, in the eyes of Steven, would not have been able to prove that there was bad faith. Jennifer Hough's attorneys are also accusing Nicki Minaj and her counsel of only filing the sanctions because they want to delay the refiling in California, which is also not true. I want to take you guys back to Judge Bernstein's response on January 11th. This is what he said. Plaintiff, who is Jennifer Hough, and her counsel's dismissal of the amended complaint permitted them to escape the Rule 11 sanctions sought by Nicki Minaj January 9th motion. However, more than 21 days has passed since I served other sanctions motions in an effort to put an end to what was an entirely frivolous case. Moreover, I had made clear to the opposing counsel that I was going to seek sanctions under both 28 U.S.C. 1927 and the court's inherent power power based upon a number of issues. So what does this mean? This means that Steven, who is Jennifer's attorney, does not know what he's talking about, and he also makes himself look like he does not understand the law. For example, in the first half of his letter, Steven said that Nicki Minaj would not be able to meet even the lowest standard of Rule 11 sanctions. If that was the case, why did you voluntarily dismiss the case? If Nicki Minaj could not prove or could not come out to actually show bad faith, why did you drop the case if she couldn't prove it? That's a whole contradiction to what you filed in court. On top of that, Steven, who is Jennifer Hough's attorney, also said in open court on January 20th that jurisdiction was wrong. And that is what Rule 11 deals with. It deals with filing in the jurisdiction where the person you're trying to sue actually resides. So not only did you admit that Nicki Minaj could prove even the lowest merit of Rule 11, but you also contradicted your open testimony to the judge with this new letter that you filed. Talk about a mess. Now, Steven's letter goes on to say this: should the court wish to hear Onika Tanya Miraj's motion, the plaintiff and I request that briefing be scheduled for dates in March of 2022. We also request that the court include plaintiff's cross motion for sanctions under Rule 11 and also 28 USC and the court's inherent power against Onika Tanya Miraj and her counsel for seeking sanctions for vexatiously multiplying and delaying proceedings and for frivolously seeking sanctions based on an improper purpose to harass and to intimidate. Finally, the plaintiff and I note that this is not merely ironic. It is telling that in a case involving allegations against Onika Tanya Miraj, that her counsel has employed the same tactics in this litigation. With respect to my statements concerning my personal attacks I have received from Nicki Minaj's lawyer, I encourage the court to view Exhibit A. Now, before we get into Exhibit A, I just want to address a couple things that Steven said in the second half of his letter. The first thing is Jennifer's cross motion for sanctions under Rule 11 when you guys were the ones that filed the lawsuit in the wrong jurisdiction. That's the first thing that is weird. The second thing is I wanted to explain a couple cases that actually deal with Rule 11. For example, there was a case of EEOC v. Bruno's Restaurant, and this is what they said: a district court may impose monetary sanctions in the form of attorney's fees upon plaintiffs who filed claims that are frivolous, unreasonable, and without foundation. Now, the importance in this statement is frivolous, unreasonable, and without foundation. Jennifer Hough's attorneys knew that their case was without foundation. This is why they rushed to get a summary judgment, and they even allowed a process server to submit a declaration that was turned out to be not true. On top of this, how are you going to sit up here and say that Nicki Minaj's lawyer, Judd Bernstein, is harassing you when you got this motion on January 9th? He hadn't even filed it in court, meaning you already knew that he was going to be coming with sanctions under the 28 USC. You knew this before you even filed the letter. So yet again, this is a way to throw a bunch of trigger words, okay? These are a bunch of word fillers for his letter because at the end of the day, he knew these sanctions were coming. This is why he voluntarily dismissed the case. Now, in Exhibit A, this is where we see Steven submit an email, but it's not the full email, but he does submit an email where Judd is giving him a courtesy, letting him know that his wife was doing the most. So this is what Judd said: Steven, I'm not sure you are aware of your wife's post on social media. While they raise a number of issues, I am reminding you out of courtesy that she is not covered by the litigation privilege, and to the extent she is relating discussions with you, she may have waived the marital communications privilege. There is no need for you to respond to this email because. So this email is a complete contradiction to what Tyrone and Steven said in court. Also, why didn't you submit the full email? Why didn't you show us what the actual posts were? Now, I am not going to show the post here because this woman is not a public figure. She is not in the case, but from my understanding, allegedly, she was communicating things she spoke to Steven about in regards to this case, which would have been problematic for Jennifer in the court of law, and it is seen as highly unprofessional. On top of that, why is your wife talking about this case on social media anyways? This should not even be relayed to her. For example, Steven is actually bound by the duty of confidentiality. The attorney-client privilege is strictly speaking a rule of evidence. It prevents lawyers from testifying about and from being forced to testify about their client's statements. Independent of that privilege, lawyers also owe their clients a duty of confidentiality. The duty of confidentiality prevents lawyers from even informally discussing information related to their client's case with others. So not only is Steven's actions unprofessional, allegedly, based in my opinion, what we see in the court documents, but this also poses as a problem for Jennifer Hough moving forward. Now, you guys know that Judge Bernstein, who is Nicki's lawyer, has responded, and this is what he said. Dear Judge, I do not want to subject the court to a deluge of submissions concerning scheduling. So deluge means a lot of evidence, and I certainly am not going to rise to the bait of writing letters demonstrating why Mr. Blackburn and Mr. Gordon are engaging in additional sanctionable conduct by sending correspondence to the court filled with false and or intentionally misleading accusations. Instead, I will respond to their accusations under oath by serving my sanctions motions on them or filing them if the court refers to the motion to Magistrate Judge Cho by no later than Wednesday, January 26. If after reviewing my motion, Mr. Gordon and Mr. Blackburn believe they are truly in need of until March to respond to it, I will consent to whatever date in March which they request. Respectfully yours, Judd. So he's basically saying, I'm not going to write a letter back and forth. I am going to respond under oath, meaning I am going to tell the truth to the court without responding to all these accusations which Judd does deem to be untrue and misleading. Yikes. So this was a lot going on in court. As of right now, the judge has not agreed upon a date. We just have them going back and forth with letters, but I am interested to see what the judge does come back and say in regards to the motions. Judd is being extremely flexible. He said until March. Also, I find it interesting that Steven is requesting until March of 2022 after accusing Nicki Minaj and her lawyers of basically delaying their opportunity to file in California. If this is delaying your opportunity, why are you asking for a later date? Just my personal opinion and some food for thought. Now, the judge also submitted an order in regards to all these letters being submitted by the lawyers. This is what the judge said. By the 31st of this month, the parties shall submit a joint letter setting forth a proposed briefing schedule for the parties' proposed motions for sanctions. If by then the parties are unable to agree on a briefing schedule, the parties shall submit a joint letter to inform the court of that fact, and the court will set a briefing schedule. Apart from the submissions just described, the parties are directed to refrain from filing further letters on this issue. So the judge is actually asking all the lawyers to stop filing letters and to work together on a date. And if they cannot work together on dates, then he will set a date for them. So let me know what you guys think about these topics down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I promise to keep you guys updated, and we'll talk very soon. Bye guys.